So, hello everyone, and welcome to the latest edition of You Am I Boro with myself, Scott Wilson, and Dom Shaw from the Northern Echo. It is the morning after, the night before, Bramall Lane. You were there, Dom. Let's get straight into it. Let's not mess about and beat around the bush. I mean, your reflections on what was another bitterly disappointing night for Boro by the end.
Yeah, same old story. The game played out really as I kind of feared and expected it would. I thought Boro were bullied. They were second best all over the park, really. I think the one big difference from last night, two concerning elements really is, for all results haven't been good of late, clearly, well, that's obviously an understatement. Like against Sunderland for half an hour, Boro were really good, weren't they?
Yeah.
In flashes, Boro have been good. Against Preston for 20 minutes in the second half, they were absolutely dominant. I thought they were so far off the pace from start to finish last night. They got a gift to get in at half-time level. And for like 15, 20 minutes in the second half, managed the game okay without playing well. But Sheffield United were so much better all over the pitch, and to be 23 points behind them now, and to see the gulf between the sides on the pitch, considering Boro beat Sheffield United only a couple of months ago, and at that stage the top two felt unlikely, but it was still very much in the conversation. Well, now Boro are closer to the bottom of the table, Luton, than they are fourth place Sunderland. That is not good enough. The other, I thought, really concerning element was Boro had 9 days to prepare for that game last night after Sunderland. And from Carrick's perspective and from Boro's perspective, if that's the best they can come up with after 9 days, then that is a major worry, because Sheffield United were good. They got in Boro's faces. They made life uncomfortable. But I'm not sure what the plan was for Boro.
Yeah. So, I mean, let's tackle the nub of it here. How much pressure is Michael Carrick now under? Because that's the talking point that's come out of the game. You know, your report and everything referenced the fact that the pressure is increasing. You know, it's felt like pressure's been building for a little while, but from a fairly low base in terms of the fans' mood towards Carrick and probably the internal mood towards Carrick. Now, clearly, you know, we're not massively privy to the exact workings of what's going on there and the thought process of, well, let's be honest, Steve Gibson in particular, because he's going to make the decision. But, I mean, is Carrick under pressure? He must be starting to be under more.
I think he has. I mean, Boro are 9th in the table now. Carrick admitted after the game on Wednesday night that isn't acceptable, that isn't good enough. And he talked about knowing that questions are going to be asked when form and results are like they are at the minute. He kind of talked about still having full belief. And I know that might rile some fans, but managers are always going to say that, because what's the opposite? Yeah. I don't have any belief. The problem is, I think, he's saying the same things or very similar things week in, week out, but nothing's changing on the pitch. So these issues, we're going over all ground here. We're going over what we discussed last week, aren't we? But these issues that are plaguing Boro have plagued Boro all season, and we're 32 games in now. So the obvious question is, like, if you haven't been able to fix them yet, what suggests that you're going to be able to fix them between now and the end of the season? The aim this season was promotion, but the aim for Boro this season was promotion. At absolute minimum, it has to be 6th place, doesn't it? Well, at the minute, Boro don't look like a team that are going to get back in the top 6. Now, you know, we saw last year with that Norwich game, for example, that from absolutely nowhere, a moment in a game sparked a run. That might happen, but at the minute, that doesn't look to be the case. At full time last night, and if you were in the away end, like, let us know in the comments what kind of the mood and the feel was like, because we were right on deadline, and I'd sent my stuff over for you to work your magic with a paper. So it was a case of, you know, you kind of glancing and looking up. But Carrick was straight over at the away end, and obviously I looked for the reaction, and half of the away end had gone.
Yeah.
Already.
Yeah, which is telling in itself.
I think that in itself is pretty telling. I know, like, this often gets trotted out when you get to this stage, but felt more apathetic than anger come full time, which I think in itself is a dangerous stage, because this season shouldn't be written off, should it? Boro, what, 3 points off the playoffs?
Well, I was just going to say that. Sorry, for all the doom and gloom, Boro are still well within touch and distance. So I guess the equation now, and clearly the question that everyone at the top of Boro will be wrestling with is, are they better sticking with the status quo and backing Michael Carrick to get this right between now and the end of the season? Given that obviously he's put a lot of groundwork in with this squad. Yes, we know things haven't been working, but he has got a tune out of a number of these players in the past. Or is it getting towards the point where if they don't make a change now, they're not going to be able to make one, and actually a change might be just what's needed to get this team into the top 6? I don't have the answer for that. I don't think at the moment. I've up until now generally been of the opinion that they've got to give Carrick to the end of the season. They've got to give him a chance to see this out. I guess what the club are thinking is, are they going to shoot themselves in the foot by doing that?
Yeah, that's it. And you're at home to Watford next, which is clearly, we'll get the fixtures running across the bottom there, which is clearly, if Boro don't win that, or if I think even with a draw, I think the reaction from the fans, it would make life pretty uncomfortable for Carrick, wouldn't it? I think that's the hub of it, like you say there. But do you still can Carrick turn this around? Do you believe Carrick can turn this around? Are Boro more likely to finish in the top 6 by sticking with Carrick, or by making a change now, bringing someone in, hoping that change can inspire an improvement? And if it doesn't, then whoever comes in has at least got 15 games to suss out the squad, to judge what they're working with going into the summer. That is undoubtedly what will, as you say, what will be being wrestled with at the minute.
Yeah.
The performance last night, Sheffield United are good, but the performance last night I thought was a worrying indicator. Boro didn't look like a team last night that are going to finish in the top 6.
Would Carrick have a defence? And I don't know. Obviously he's going to speak to the press ahead of the Watford game, and obviously we'll see what happens in the Watford game. I suspect part of his defence might be, look, this is a new team. I've been handed a load of new players halfway through the season. Ryan Giles, yes, we all know what he's capable of when he's at his best, but he hasn't looked like that for 18 months. He's going to need a bit of time to find his feet. Kelechi Iheanacho's coming in off the back of a bad time in Sevilla. He's potentially going to need a little bit of time to feed. Now, you can make the argument, well, Carrick's been part of the group that decided to make these changes. He's part of that. Yeah, I fully buy that. But is there at least a degree of defence in, this is to all intents and purposes, a new look team that's being thrown together halfway through the season in the midst of a run where they can't really afford any time to bed in?
To an extent, but Ryan Giles, Carrick wanted Ryan Giles, didn't he? Carrick was absolutely adamant he wanted to sign Ryan Giles. I think certainly last night, the own goal, it was unfortunate against Sunderland, but last night, I think raised eyebrows as to, or kind of raised the volume of the questions as Ryan Giles, of the doubt about Ryan Giles' defending. He was at fault for 2 of the goals. The second goal, to just let Brereton Diaz run off him like he did last night. So Carrick really wanted Ryan Giles, really clearly felt that he could get the best out of Ryan Giles again. The problem with Ryan Giles is, for all he offers going forward, there's the issues defensively. Well, so far with Giles, the negatives are outweighing the positives, aren't there, since he's come back. Carrick was clearly wanted George Edmondson to re-sign. I continue to be baffled.
I was just going to say that Edmondson over Fry.
Warnock was on Sky last night. I don't know what you want to say because you were at Sunderland, but after the game, I heard Warnock say that he cannot understand why Dale Fry isn't starting. And I'm the same. This is a Boro team that can't defend.
Yeah.
And Dale Fry is one of the better defenders in the division, in my opinion. I think that's baffling. But it goes back to what we were saying last week. I don't think this is a personnel thing. I think this is a structural thing. I think it's a style thing. Illing Jr. came in last night, rough debut. But he was playing in the Champions League last month. He's clearly hugely, enormously talented. He's clearly done enough on the training pitch over the last week or so to convince he should be playing. But he looked lost. So is the message not getting through? Is he not comfortable playing the way he was being asked to play? Azaz was way off it again. So for all I take the point about the new players, I think too many players are underperforming, and the issues are not the new players. The issues are season-long problems that just haven't been addressed, or if they have been addressed, the message isn't getting through.
I mean, you mentioned Azaz there. He's not played well for a couple of months now, has he? His form is a real worry, because in the first half of the season, I felt he was the catalyst for an awful lot of what Boro were doing well. I thought he was ideally suited to that number 10 role. Thought he could play in behind either Conway or Latterlath and do well there, and he did do, but he's looking all at sea as well, isn't he, at the moment?
Yeah, I think he's lucky to still be in the team. Azaz, Illing Jr. and Azaz, I think both would be fortunate to start. Like, clearly, you're not going to write off Illich Jr. after one game. It was one bad debut, but in a much needed in a game where you need to win on Saturday, Whittaker will surely come back into the team. For who? Illing Jr. or Azaz? Do you make a case to play Conway 10 behind Iheanacho and Whittaker on the right? And I think Azaz has been fortunate to stay in the team for a while now. He's been off the pace for weeks and weeks, hasn't he? And he was again last night. But Boro were across the board, and when forms nosedived of individual players like that, you need you need your talisman to rise, don't you? It's now you need your talisman to stand up and to win a game, to come up with a moment. Ben Doak, this is of all the time to be without Ben Doak. Boro need him now, don't they?
I mean, not a game probably when he was ever going to really impress. But what did you think of Iheanacho? How sharp did he look? How ready did he look?
I felt for him because I thought he looked, he was just isolated, no support, really no service. And there was a few times when he beat the defender, the ball's forward, and there was canny little flicks off, or he held the ball up well, but he just didn't have the support, or he'd made the flick. And Carrick often talks about like communication, doesn't he, and link up between players and building that understanding. Well, clearly that's not going to be there yet. That Azaz and Emmanuel Lat had that understanding, didn't they? Clearly that's not going to be there yet. I thought he did okay in the circumstances. Bergzorg was Boro's best player again.
As he has been for the best last month. Yeah,
for weeks. How do you think? I was going to say it's Carrick's press conference this afternoon. If you're watching this on Thursday afternoon, we'll have obviously, or Thursday evening or Friday, we'll have obviously spoken to Carrick by then. But how do you think he'll play it on Thursday afternoon?
Well, how was he after the game last night first? Because that's what I was going to ask you next. How did you feel his kind of demeanour was after the game last night?
It was kind of the similar to what. So you were at Rockcliffe earlier this week, weren't you? And you said afterwards that you could tell he was trying to strike a balance of clearly this isn't good enough. Clearly we need to improve. Clearly results need to get better. But we can turn it round. I'm still seeing positive signs. I still have full belief. It was similar last night. So he talked about the belief he still has in the side. But he held his hands up. The position isn't good enough. Form isn't good enough. I need to take responsibility. We need to turn it round. The day after, you get more of an opportunity to dig a bit deeper, don't you? It's always difficult immediately after a game when you're getting 4 or 5 minutes. But the day later, it just gives you more of an opportunity, doesn't it, to kind of try and add meat to the bones, really. And
I do think with Carrick that he's not natural going on the front foot and getting stuck into his players, is he? That just does not come. Some managers, Chris Wilder, for example, after the weekend, now I know they've won the game at the weekend. It's always easier to do this after you've actually won the game. But he comes out and says that's nowhere near acceptable, nowhere near good enough, bad decision making, second to far too many balls. If we play like that between the end of the season, we've got absolutely no chance. Win, lose or draw, I don't think that kind of attitude comes naturally to Carrick. I don't think we'll ever see him come out and be that type of manager. Now he's in a position at the moment where quite understandably, fans are tearing their hair out if he's coming out saying everything in the garden's rosy, because it quite clearly isn't. So I think that's the balance he's trying to tread at the minute. You know, he's got to accept that this just is unacceptable, that this isn't good enough, because to do anything else would just make him come across as delusional. But I think he's still clinging to, I get what you say, any manager's got to back his players. I think Carrick, though, to his core, does. I think everything about his managerial style is about having faith in his players and backing them and trusting them to turn it round and talking up the positives. I just think that's how he is. So I still don't think he'll veer massively away from that.
But if not veer massively away in his messaging, do you think he has to make a significant change in terms of the approach on Saturday? Yeah, he can't just keep doing the same thing, can he? Even though it's clearly not working.
I don't think we're going to see a radical change in formation. I don't think we're going to see Carrick saying, right, I'm going to go 5 at the back. I'm going to play wing backs. I'm going to go 4-4-2. Let's have 2 up. I don't think there will be a massive change in formation or shape, because, again, I think Carrick will say that is betraying my principles. If I give that up, I might as well give up everything. I don't think we'll see that. Is he gonna stop wanting his side to play out from the back, try and be progressive, all of that? I don't think we're going to see that. So, yes, there'll be tweaks. I'm sure there'll be tweaks. I think there'll be personnel changes. There's got to be. You know, I think he'll, you know, clearly he needs to try and shore up this defence. But if you're talking about major changes in tactics, playing style, all of that, no, I don't think we will see that.
Those quotes, did you see the quotes from Wilder before the game? I'll read them if you haven't seen them. I'd rather have a team that's mentally strong and tough and wants to win than a team that's milky and soft that plays beautiful football. End of conversation. I'm a winning football manager. Now, we weren't sat in that room, so we don't know the context, and he might well deny it, but it's hard not to read that as a dig at Boro. And Boro proved him right, didn't they? Again last night.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that then kind of brings us back to, I guess, the wider conversation of, are you looking for a manager and a team that can get you out of the Championship? Or are you looking for a manager and a team that can build something that might be sustainable in the long run, but that might have ups and downs along the way? Now, you know, clearly
you can find both. You can do both.
I was going to say, clearly you want a bit of both. And there are teams that have gone up doing a bit of both. Absolutely. But Boro have gone with a quick fix approach in the past. Hasn't really worked. Clearly now they're going for the long haul approach. And you know, we've got to say, we've raved about a lot of things that Boro have been getting right off the pitch, and the synergy and the fact there hasn't been this recruitment clash and all of this. You know, so we've kind of backed what Boro are trying to do. So, you know, is there an argument? Well, you've got to see it through to its end, and its end is the end of the season, and see what happens then. I don't know. Or are you saying, well, actually, we've tried this, it's not working, let's bring in a Wilder type and see if it can just get us over the line between now and the end of the season? You know, that's the crux of it in a way, isn't it? If you put all your eggs in the basket labeled long-term development, synergy between head coach and the recruitment, building a club rather than just a team that's going to get dismantled as soon as a manager goes, all of this, then you probably got to be prepared to ride things out, because, you know, we've backed that, haven't we? We've said that's the right way for Boro to go. Well, how does that then sit if, when it's not really going well, and don't get me wrong, it's not going well, you rip it up and say, well, let's just get someone in between now and the end of the season, see if they can scramble us over the line?
But that wouldn't be the so. But what you do is replace, and I'm not saying this will happen or should happen, but what you do is replace the long-term vision with long-term vision, wouldn't you? So you wouldn't, if you were to make a change now, I don't think you bring in someone with the next 15 games in mind. I think you bring in someone with the next 2.5, 3.5 years in mind, but in the hope that they can instigate a change, they can spark a change. But if they don't, that at least they got you on the right foot for the future. Boro won't rip it up, will they? They won't rip it up and start again. Boro will stick to what has worked. Boro have made huge strides over the last 2.5 years on and off the pitch. That doesn't change, I don't think. But clearly at the minute, the issues on the pitch need addressing. And I think Carrick needs to prove over the next week, two, however many games in the next 2 or 3 weeks that he can do that.
In many ways it's an immaterial question. But do you think this Boro team would be doing better if Wilder was in charge of it?
I think Boro are underachieving. I think Carrick should be doing more with this team. I think Regis Lebris has shown that at Sunderland. I think Wilder would have made Boro more streetwise. So I think I'm not saying Wilder's a better manager. I'm not saying he'd have necessarily been more successful at Boro, because there are issues. Clearly what didn't work for Wilder at Boro last time. You don't know what's going to go on in the background. Would you get to the stage where there's been so much synergy to build the squad that you've built? Would there have been that togetherness off the scenes, behind the scenes? But I think Wilder would have cut out the errors, or wouldn't have stood for the errors, or would have found a way to address the issues that have plagued Boro for so long this season. What do you think?
I can't really just, I would agree with pretty much everything you've said there. In the you can't get away from the fact that this Boro team should be doing better than it is. This Boro team should not be 3 points out of the playoff positions with 14 games left. Nearly 20 points behind Sunderland, might even be 20 points. That's unacceptable. So, should that be improved on? Yes, absolutely. Are there mitigating factors for it? Yes, I think there have been along the way. But I don't think there's sufficient mitigation for this team not to get in the playoffs. Now, I guess if Boro put their flag in the sand and say, Michael Carrick was our choice of head coach, we want to give him to the end of the season to see if he can get us in the playoffs and get us promoted, I think I can see why they would feel that. I don't think that would, I know a lot of fans, I suspect, would be screaming at the TV set now, that's ridiculous. I can see why they might say that if we've embarked on this project, we need to see it out until the end of the season. That said, if they get beat on Saturday, I'm with you. I think the mood of the fans then, and where that might then leave Boro in the table, and the gap between the playoff positions, might make that position increasingly impossible to hold.
I know we're going over old ground here, but the things like what Wilder's talking about there, I'll just get the quote up again. I'd rather have a team that's mentally strong and tough and wants to win than a team that's milky and soft and plays beautiful football. Boro have been too soft this season, haven't they? Can that be fixed? Can Carrick fix that now?
I think there's a scenario where Boro can improve slightly. I don't think Carrick can completely iron out the flaws in this Middlesbrough team. Does he have to get them in the playoffs? Potentially not. All the teams around Boro are pretty flaky. They're all dropping points. Obviously, let's assume the top four are completely out of it. I think they are. There's 2 playoff places there. Can Carrick, with this squad, get Boro into one of those 2 playoff places? Yeah, I think he probably can still. I think we've seen enough from previous performances, previous results, to suggest he can get them into the playoffs. Can he then go and win the playoffs? I think that's another question entirely, because, as you rightly say, Sheffield United and Sunderland at the moment look a completely different proposition. But now, will that necessarily be the case in 3 months' time when the playoffs come around? Maybe not. So I guess I'm sitting on the fence there to a degree. I think I think they can get in the playoffs under Carrick. Yeah, I'd struggle to see them winning them. And I guess that's another question, another factor in it all, isn't it? What about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. Boro can absolutely still finish in the top 6. I think the teams around them are very average, aren't they? West Brom, Blackburn, Watford, Norwich, Bristol City. I don't think any of them are particularly good. But the evidence of the last week alone, or the last 10 days alone, I just don't, at the minute, I just don't see how a Sheffield United or a Sunderland just don't overpower Boro over 2 legs. Boro have conceded 6 goals in the last 2 games, 8 goals in 3 games. You would not hang, even if Boro were to win 1-0 or 2-1 or whatever at home by 1 goal, you just could not see this Boro team going and grinding out a hard-fought away result, could you? That's the issue. Just run through just briefly before Rebel some of Carrick's quotes from last night. We definitely have to stay calm, but we have to accept what we need to do better and what's not going our way as a group. Ultimately, I'm leading on that. That's on me. I accept that. There's definitely a calmness. We need to think clearly and judge things in the right manner. We have another game Saturday and we'll be better prepared for that. I have huge belief. The belief doesn't change. You're not going to totally change everything in the blink of an eye. I think the problem there, it's not a blink of an eye. These are issues that have been prevalent all season. We're working and trying to improve all the time. Ultimately, it's results that get you questioned when you don't win games. I get that, but it doesn't mean it has to stay that way.
Which is kind of classic Michael Carrick, isn't it, really? Let's be honest, and I suspect that is going to be his message going into the weekend. I'd be amazed if he veers away from that, really, in his kind of pre-match stuff. And as we've been saying, it boils down to, can they get a result at the weekend against Watford? What do you reckon?
Well,
I'll put you on the spot.
Yeah, I think I was at Sunderland last week when Watford were there, and Watford played well. I thought Watford had lost 3 on the bounce. I think they'd won 2 in 10 or something, and I thought, they'll roll over here and get the tummies tickled, and Sunderland will win easy. They were actually pretty decent. They managed the game really well, but then they got a good hiding midweek at home, didn't they? Like you wouldn't be surprised if Tom Cleverley got the boot before Saturday's game, such is the life at Watford.
Yeah, life at Watford, yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it's a dreadful game for Boro to have. But
it's a game that on paper they should be winning. And let's be honest, if they're going to have this turnaround and improvement we're talking about, it's really got to start at the weekend.
Oh yeah, they have to win. They have to win.
I think the move to fans will be interesting because I think it'll be edgy from the word go. And I think that Boro are clearly going to be a side that are not full of confidence. We've seen enough to know that. So, if there's a couple of early mistakes, a couple of misplaced passes, maybe a dodgy pass out from the back, if Watford score, then I fear for Boro and I fear for what the mood inside the Riverside will be like. I can see Boro maybe kind of scratching out a relatively unconvincing 1-0, 2-1. But I think it's going to be tight, and I think it's going to be a nervy afternoon.
Well, let's see what Saturday brings and what this afternoon brings at Rockcliffe, because we're over at Boro's training ground to speak to Michael Carrick. So we'll have full reaction from there and all the build-up, obviously, on the Echo site and in the paper before Saturday's Watford game. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for getting involved in the comments if you're listening on your podcast platforms. And obviously, thanks for any rate and review there as well. Enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy the game if you're there at the weekend. And we'll speak early next week on the next You Are My Boro.